What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Summon the Pack. My name's Jake, and today I'm bringing a deck tech for an Oathbreaker deck with Wrenn and 6 as our commander and Crop Rotation as our signature spell. I'm actually planning on using this deck this weekend, so I'll let everyone know how it goes. I've been playtesting around with it a little bit. Seems pretty fun. There's nothing too degenerate in it. Well, there could be, but my goal is to not use that unless my hand is forced. There's a couple win conditions that I'm actually looking to do. The main one is getting Dark Depths in play. So Dark Depths is, when it comes into play, it gets 10 ice counters. You can pay 3, remove an ice counter from Dark Depths, and then when it has 0 ice counters on it, you sacrifice it, and you get a indestructible legendary 2020 black avatar creature with flying, which is awesome, right? Who doesn't want a 2020 flying indestructible creature? We could pay 30 mana over time to remove the ice counters, but what we really want to do is have like a Thespian stage in play, and that lets us copy Dark Depths, and it doesn't get the 10 counters. So it's a copy of Dark Depths, we sacrifice it, and then we get our 2020 Merit Lage. If we have Wrenn and 6 in play, when this happens, we pull Thespian stage back to our hand, we play it again, and hopefully we get some more 2020 flying indestructible creatures. Now, they don't have haste, so our opponents could, find ways to remove it, or even just kill us before we can do anything. And if we only have like one 2020 flying indestructible, that's a pretty big sign for the rest of the table to just kind of be like, oh, let's kill Jake now because he's going to take us out one by one. So we have to kind of be careful how we execute that. The other route that we can take, if, say, Thespian Stage isn't available for some reason, is we can use Mirage Mirror. So Mirage Mirror, you can pay 2, and it becomes a copy of an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land. So again, we need to have Dark Depths in play. We copy it, and then sacrifice it, and start getting our 2020 flying indestructibles. Now the other win, which is definitely more funsy, is using Field of the Dead. So Field of the Dead reads, it enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for a colorless mana, and when it or another land enters the battlefield under your control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 zombie creature token. As you can see, all of our lands except for, I have 2 forests, 2 basic forests. All of our lands are all one-off. I did that on purpose so that I wouldn't have a bunch of basics, and for Field of the Dead. What we can do is, if let's say we just get to 7, if we just play our 8th land, we only get 1, 2, 2. But we're also running Scapeshift. Scapeshift lets us sacrifice any number of lands and then search our library for up to that many land cards and put them into play tapped. If we have 7 lands, we sacrifice our 7 lands, we get 7 new lands, preferably all different names. We aren't getting the multiple forests. Because of how Scapeshift and Enter the Battlefield effects work, we get a 2/2 zombie for each of them. So we would end up with 7 of them. They all see themselves coming into play. So if we have 7, we'll get 7. If we have 8, we'll get 8, etc., etc. That's still kind of weak, which is why it's kind of the funsy way to go. But to kind of put the icing on the cake with that one, what we would also be wanting to do is play Valakut at the same time. Ideally, it's starting to get to Magical Christmas Land here. Ideally we have, oh, you know what, I don't even have it in here. I had Prismatic Omen in here as well. I must have either skipped it or forgotten about it. But anyways, Prismatic Omen reads, lands you control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. So with Prismatic Omen and Valakut, if there's 7 lands coming into play, that's 7 Valakut triggers as well, so that's 21 damage. Each mountain that comes into play with Valakut after 5, I believe, you get to Lightning Bolt to target. So you have 7 coming in, they all see themselves coming in, that's 7 triggers, 21 damage, so you just need Prismatic Omen and Scapeshift and 7 lands, and then ideally you're killing someone, 21 damage, and then you're getting 7 2/2 zombies. Now the other cards I'll kind of just go over a little quickly. For artifacts, Crucible of Worlds, this is kind of an obvious play. It lets us bring lands from our graveyard back into play, so things that we're sacrificing, like Mirage Mirror or Thespian Stage. So after we sack it to make our Lage token, we can bring them back with Crucible of Worlds. Same with, there's a couple fetches in here, so just getting those back for value is a nice play. The deck doesn't have a ton of ways to draw actual extra cards. So just being able to get the value without having to run out our Wrenn and 6 is nice. Mox Diamond, just a little ramp. It also lets us put a land into our graveyard. Beast Within, just to deal with pesky permanents that we may encounter. Constant Mist, this is great for this deck. So it costs a green and a colorless. It has buyback, sacrifice a land. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn. You're basically protected. If you have a Crucible in Worlds in play, it's a green and a colorless, and you just prevent combat damage from happening. So if people are attacking you, you can just fog them every turn, hypothetically. So that's great. Magma Quake just deals with creatures that don't have flying and planeswalkers, so the planeswalkers thing is good. We aren't running out Wrenn and 6 right away. We're waiting until kind of that critical moment when we have enough to crop rotation. Hopefully we have a Thespian Stage or a Dark Depths in play already, so that way we can play Wrenn and 6, crop rotation one of those two into play, and then still have enough mana to copy with Thespian Stage and get our Lage token that same turn. Because once we get Wrenn and 6 on the board and people see that we have crop rotation, like, he's probably going to be an instant target and try to be killed like straight away. So we want to kind of hold off on playing him until we kind of hit that critical mass of getting to be able to play and get our Lage token. The lands you can see here are, I won't really go over too in depth. This Petrified Field, it's another way to get Thespian Stage or Dark Depths, if someone kills our Dark Depths, back into play so they're relevant again in case we don't hit our Crucible Worlds or it's too early to run out Wrenn and 6. Tectonic Reformation, here's just another way to get lands into our graveyard, and I'll talk about that in a second. And that just kind of like lets us draw and filter through our deck a little bit. It also has cycling, so if it's just a dead card, we can just pay 2 and get rid of it. Exploration lets us play an additional land on each of our turns. This is huge, again, because we are fairly land heavy, playing 25 lands. I'm going to see how that works out. It might actually be right to be at like 26, but we'll see how it kind of runs out. Corsair Crewfix, again, kind of self-explanatory. It's kind of half a draw in a way. We also gain a little bit of life when we play land, which we definitely care about, playing land that is. And the incidental life gain can be pretty big, considering you only start with 20 life. Burgeoning, whenever an opponent, now this is, be careful playing this card, because when you play this card, you put a big target on your back. But whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So if you have this in your opening hand and you have like this, another card and 5 land, this is very, very, very powerful, because you play your like forest or whatever, play burgeoning, pass a turn, everyone's going to play land their first turn, and you run out 3 lands. So on your second turn, you have 4 land. Super powerful, very busted, but watch yourself, because as soon as you start to pull that far ahead, everyone's going to come after you. Faithless Looting, again, one of our very few card draw engines, but what it does is draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards, and it has flashback. Discarding land in our deck actually feels fairly fine because of cards like Crucible of Worlds and Petrified Field. Farseek just lets us tutor up plains, island, swamp, or mountain, put them into play tapped, then shuffle your library. So it's a way to get more land in play. Green Sun Zenith, again, lets us tutor a green creature with converted mana cost extra less, put it on the battlefield. I'll go over some of the things that we'll want to possibly tutor for. Life from the Loam, here's another way to get cards from our graveyard into back into our hand. Also, Dredging could be relevant, getting just kind of free cards, in free land into our graveyard. Reap the Past. Now, I don't know about this one. I have it. I've opened a bunch of Modern Horizons. I had it and I thought, you know what, let's play around with it. It's not too competitive of a card, but it seems kind of fun. Let's just get some cards back in our hand, kind of fill up. Regrowth lets us get a card back. This is very targeted, obviously, so we would want to be getting things like Dark Depths or Thespian Stage, Mirage Mirror, things like that. Think like the key components to our deck. Maybe even Scapeshift. Splendid Reclamation, so all these lands that we're putting into our graveyard, this lets us just get them all back. And if we have Field of the Dead in play, that could end up being a lot more zombies. Especially if we Scapeshift, like 8 lands, we get 8 2/2s, then we Splendid Reclamation, that could be another 8 2/2s. So kind of fun. Sylvan Scrying, same thing as Farseek, just kind of lets us ramp and get more lands in play. So here is the pieces of kind of degenerate, spiteful components of the deck that I really do plan on just using as like, don't force my hand type component is Blast Zone. So this lets us destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or equal to the number of charge counters on Blast Zone. So this is more of a controlling. This is actually isn't too degenerate or bad at all, but it kind of lets us protect ourselves and we can get it back and keep doing that. The other ones are the more obvious Strip Mine, Wrenn 6, or any way to Strip Mine in Crucible Worlds, any way to be able to recur and just Strip Mine every turn or multiple times a turn is quite filthy. But sometimes you gotta get people back and show them that you won't be pushed around. Same with Wasteland. Being able to Wasteland every turn is very nasty. Nasty stuff. And then the rest of these, Lotus Field, good way to get land into our graveyard because we have a ton of ways to get land back. So it was like an easy inclusion. Pendelhaven, it produces a green mana. We have a lot of green cards. It's a unique land, and it also pumps up our 1/1s, which we have like one or two of. Azusa lets us play 2 additional lands each of our turns. That's huge. Again, just getting lands in place so we can do the things we want to do. Dryad Arbor, it's a land. It's also a creature. We can block with it. We can bring it back. Very easy. Include Elvish Reclaimer. I was actually on the fence about, but the more I thought about it, I actually think it's a pretty solid inclusion. Oftentimes, we're going to have 3 or more lands in our graveyard. So it's a 1-cost 3/4, which is just fine. It's pretty great. But the great thing about it is we can pay 2 and tap it and sacrifice a land to search for a land and put it on the battlefield tapped. So we can pay 2, sack, some incidental land and go get our Thespian Sage. We can go get our Dark Depths or a Field of the Dead or whatever it is that we need at the time. Or maybe even it's a Wasteland or a Strip Mine to get someone back for doing us dirty. We have Eternal Witness, again, being able to get a card back from our graveyard. Nissa, I don't know about this. I guess we'll kind of see. It's a ramp. We get to kind of do some fun things with Nissa. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Ramming Up Excavator, same as Crucible of Worlds. It lets us get cards from our graveyard, or lands back from our graveyard to play. Tribe Elder, more ramp and a blocker. Secure Tribe Scout, we can tap the Scout to put a land from our hand into play. That's a great effect that we're definitely interested in. Springbloom Druid, now this card I'm actually a really big fan of. It costs 3, it's a 1/1. So looking at you, Pendelhaven. When it enters the battlefield, we sacrifice a land, and if we do, we search for up to 2 basic lands and put them into play tapped. So this is ramp. It's technically it's kind of card draw, pseudo card draw, because even though we're sacrificing land and putting it in our graveyard, we have so many ways to get lands back from our graveyard into play that we aren't really losing it forever. Like, there's going to be ways that we can get that back. So that's great. I love that. Sylvan Safekeeper, just a way to protect the creatures that we care about, like Azusa, like Elvish Reclaimer. Ramming Up Excavator might be a relevant one. Tribe Elder. There's a number of creatures that we will want to protect, and the way you do that is you sacrifice the land and we give a creature Shroud until end, so it can't be targeted. So that's a great protection spell. Tireless Tracker. I was on the fence about this one too, but it kind of fit on curve and seemed like maybe an okay card just because of the incidental card advantage it can give us. When it enters the battlefield, we investigate, so we get a clue artifact that we can pay 2 and sacrifice to draw a card. So that's fine. And then whenever we sacrifice a clue, we put a +1/+1 counter on it. So whenever a land enters the battlefield, we'll have plenty of lands entering the battlefield. So we'll get lots of clues. We may be able to use them, we may not be able to use them, but if we get backed into a corner, things get really slow and grindy for us. We have ways to draw out of it because we will have the land. We will have the mana available. Titiana, Protector of Argoth. This is another sort of finisher for us. When she enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So again, very relevant. We'll basically always hit with this. There would be very few occasions where we won't be able to take advantage of the first ability. And then whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, you create a 5/3 green elemental creature token. So even our fetches going into the graveyard, or strip mines, or wastelands, or petrified fields, or our sacrificed thespian stage, all of those field of ruin, all of those things, blast zone, will get a 5/3 green elemental creature token. Those start to add up very quickly. But again, you want to be careful on the timing, because you start making too many 5/3s and people will start to come after you super hard and aggressive. Wayward Swordtooth. This I'm a fan of because, again, it just lets us play additional land on each of our turns, which we definitely care about. If we do ascend and get the City's Blessing, we just got a 5/5 for 3 mana, so that's great. And then the last creature, World Shaper. Also a huge fan of this one. Costs 4. It's a 3/3. When it attacks, we can put the top 3 cards of our library into our graveyard. When it dies, put all lands from your graveyard onto the battlefield tapped. So all those lands that we've been ditching all game long, or sacrificing, or whatever, they're all just going to come back. Hopefully we'll get some Field of the Dead triggers out of it. We'll get a bunch of 2/2s, or we'll have a Valakut and Prismatic Omen, which I have 60 in here, so I'm not sure what happened, but maybe take out, I don't know, maybe take out Tectonic Reformation. Get Prismatic Omen, get a bunch of Valakut triggers. So that's the deck tech. Hope you guys enjoy it. The thing with Oathbreaker is there's a lot of great cards that can go in these decks. You know, we're limited to a 60 card one of deck. I'll let everyone know. I might give a little update after the weekend on how the deck performed, what changes I'll make, if I need to tune it up or tune it down. Plan on playing a bunch of games with my buddies, so we'll let everyone know how it goes. Hope you enjoyed it, and until the next one, bye-bye.